Thank you. Good afternoon. I have to wait for instruction. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm doing. But you can tell I have good instructors out here. They give great instruction. Okay, welcome everybody. And good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to our Revelle medalists. I mean, this is their party. This is to celebrate an amazing 5 faculty members. And this is an event I look forward to every year because it's an opportunity to recognize and celebrate our very distinguished, okay, I'm gonna split it so that I can, both sides, this works. So to recognize our very distinguished faculty whose contributions exemplify UC San Diego's culture of collaboration and being at the cutting edge of discovery. Our faculty, needless to say, are unique. They are curious. They understand the value of diverse perspectives, and they understand the value of great research and great teaching. And they encourage our students to do exactly what they do, which is be curious and take risks and pursue great science. Our faculty challenge themselves and their students to ask hard questions and then relentlessly solve for them. They're committed to advancing groundbreaking research and nurturing the students and scholars who will come behind them. They are leaders who have pioneered new fields. And in case it was lost on some of you, one of the Nobel Prizes this year in AI was for somebody who was a postdoc here in a field that was pioneered at UC San Diego. So that's the type of school we are. That's what you all make happen. That's what you represent. So besides being brilliant problem solvers, our faculty have challenged status quo in service of something really big and something bigger than themselves. Not only that, they have succeeded by creating a positive impact so massive that it's nearly impossible to quantify, and this Nobel Prize was just one example of what I was talking about. So our honorees today have contributed to the continued growth and reputation and prestige and distinction for which UC San Diego has become known. They have achieved and are well-deserving of global renown in their respective fields, and they have nurtured a campus community and built an ecosystem that supports unlimited success. They are creative, they're innovative, and they're impactful. And they have made the kind of discoveries and scientific advances that legitimately, literally, and objectively have been called life-changing. I can go down the list of multiple discoveries, multiple inventions that have really changed the lives of people and saved the lives of people simultaneously. So each one of you has brought an intense and innate commitment to collaboration in the service of greater good, and your impact and legacy will continue for a very long time. So it's only fitting that we honor these remarkable faculty in conjunction with the celebration of the founding of UC San Diego. So this used to be the Founders Week, and this is one of the special events of the Founders Week. And because you have built legacies that will outlast you and be celebrated for many years to come, just like Roger Revelle envisioned. So it makes all the more sense that we do this during the Founders Week. So to our medalists, I want to say thank you for your amazing contributions. I was going to say, and I hope that you'll keep on continuing, but that maybe I'm putting too much pressure on you. And that's not like me to put pressure on my faculty. So to our guests, I want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this celebration to recognize 5 amazing people. And before I introduce our next speaker, I want to say there's one bit of trivia that might interest you. So this is year 13 for me, and this is the first time that all 5 faculty members, all the honorees, were active faculty when I got here. So, wait. So this could mean I've been here very long. It could mean I pushed them out, but I'm telling you, neither of it is true. It's a great honor to be your chancellor, and it's a great honor to be recognizing some superstars. So next on, our Executive Vice Chancellor, Dr. Elizabeth Simmons, please.
Thanks, Chancellor Khosla, and welcome to everybody. It's a real pleasure, first, to see the room really completely full. This is wonderful to see how many of you have turned out to honor our latest generation of Revelle medalists. As many of you know, the Revelle Medal is named after one of UC San Diego's most revered founding faculty, Roger Revelle. And the medal symbolizes his philosophy behind great institutions: recruit the brightest minds, explore the unknown, and above all, advance knowledge to make the world a better place. Much of our university community's success can be traced back to the strong foundation laid by Revelle and our other founders, who drove transformative changes locally and globally and helped UC San Diego grow to be one of the nation's top public research universities in just a few short decades. It really is extraordinary. And today we recognize several distinguished UC San Diego faculty who uphold this proud legacy through pioneering discoveries, advancing knowledge, and pushing boundaries in many different ways, always to make the world a better place. Each honoree was nominated because of how they exemplify the values and the transformative impact that Revelle brought to our university and surrounding communities. Our medalists span disciplines from mathematics to medicine, from policy to engineering, and they have prioritized research, education, clinical care, and service that include those whom society usually does not pay enough attention to. And for that, I also commend them. We're also privileged to have several of our founders here this afternoon, original members of various of the university's academic units, and you can tell them by the blue stoles that they are wearing. You may notice that this is the first time that we have some founding members of our very newest academic school, the School of Computing, Information, and Data Sciences. So that's another milestone for the university. And you'll also see that we have a number of prior Revelle medalists with us. Many of them, thank you, proudly wearing their Revelle medals today, and I can see several of them here. So congratulations to them and to the newest, and let's give them all a round of applause. So on behalf of UC San Diego, thank you, founding faculty and Revelle medalists, for the lasting legacies you have contributed to our university community. And congratulations especially to this year's Revelle Medal honorees. We take great pride in all of your efforts and accomplishments as Tritons, especially the unique ways that you have continued our ethos of non-tradition in shaping a brighter future. It's because of outstanding faculty like you that UC San Diego continues to attract some of the most innovative and creative scholars at all levels of training from around the world. And it's through you that we're able to tackle the biggest issues that society needs us to work on. So now I'd like to invite the Chancellor back to the podium to continue the program.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So today we recognize, as I said, 5 extraordinary faculty. They are groundbreakers, transformers, collaborators, and visionaries. The Revelle Medal was initiated to honor distinguished, sustained, and extraordinary service to UC San Diego. It is the highest award given by the Chancellor to a faculty member, and it is bestowed upon faculty emeriti who have significantly advanced UC San Diego's mission. So this afternoon, it's my honor, my privilege to recognize 5 amazing individuals who will join the elite rank of past honorees. Okay, let's start with the first one, Chung Graham. Congratulations. Our first medalist, I have to say a few words, okay? So our first medalist is a distinguished professor emerita of mathematics and computer science and engineering. She joined UC San Diego and has held the Paul Erdos Chair in Combinatorics since 1998. She has broken boundaries throughout her esteemed career. She was the first female tenured professor at the University of Pennsylvania. She was inducted into the U.S. National Academy of Sciences earlier this year. Congratulations. And she's been called one of the most accomplished faculty members in the mathematics department for her many, many contributions. During her time at UC San Diego, She's still here, by the way, okay? Just retired doesn't mean you're gone, but I'm talking about during her active time at UC San Diego. She helped solidify the mathematics department's reputation as top 5 nationally ranked research group within graduate programs at public and private universities. Phan has published more than 250 research articles, 3 books on her study and expertise in universal graphs, spectral graph theory, quasi-random graphs, and extremal graph theory. I understand all the words, but I don't understand the combination, but that's okay. That's a good chancellor who understands the words but not the combination. And she has collaborated on research and articles with many noted experts, including her husband, Ron Graham. Phan has been sought-after speaker at major conferences, premier research institutes, and global institutions, widely recognized at UC San Diego for her strong support of women in mathematics. Her students and peers sought her out as an advisor, mentor, and trusted colleague, and she has served on the editorial board of more than 12 scholarly journals and publications. And I can go on and on and on, but I think what we need to do is look at the video to know more about Dr. Graham. Please.
Phan Chung is one of the most approachable mathematicians I've ever met. She's very collaborative. She's very easy to speak to. Her knowledge across different areas of mathematics is incredible.
Phan is a very generous person. She's very generous with her ideas in mathematics. She's very generous with her time. She's someone who's always willing to help.
I am so glad that I picked the right field. You have to enjoy what you are doing, and I thoroughly enjoy my work. My work is almost like my hobby.
I've known Phan Chung since I was an early PhD student. I first encountered her book entitled Spectral Graph Theory, and it opened my eyes as to how much mathematics there actually is connected to combinatorics, and made me see how you can use all sorts of different tools from other areas to bring to bear on combinatorial problems. Combinatorics is all about something called enumeration. Enumeration is a fancy way of saying counting. So, for example, you might ask, how many ways can you seat 3 people in 5 cinema seats? That would be a question in combinatorics. And in fact, this comes up all over science, in biology, in chemistry, in physics. So for example, this is used sometimes in search algorithms, in PageRank, in the web graph. So there are many applications of Phan's work. Both she and her husband Ron Graham together are giants in combinatorics.
Something that she has worked on is the famous so-called PageRank algorithm, which lies at the heart of the Google search engine. Phan has worked and generalized and tweaked the algorithm and showed that it can be applied to a diverse set of problems in graph theory and networks, and she's been very successful with that.
Phan Chung is among the most inspiring figures on this campus today, and probably in whole of mathematics. As a mathematician of the new age of information, of networks, of connections, of connectivity, she teaches all of us how to think about them, how to reason with them, how to devise the best possible methods.
When Phan joined UC San Diego in 1998, she helped solidify the reputation of what was already a world-class group in discrete mathematics and combinatorics. Today, our discrete math program is ranked number 5 in the nation, and Phan's contributions have been a major factor in achieving and maintaining this reputation.
She is actually quite prolific, as you say. I looked up some numbers. It lists 137 co-authors, which is, for a mathematician, is just remarkable. She has collaborated with some of the top experts, not just in her own field, but in quite different fields.
Collaboration always makes the mathematics better because people see things differently. I have a joint position both in math and computer science, which was an ideal arrangement for me. I enjoy working with people from different backgrounds.
You know, it's so important that we diversify participation in the sciences. If you want to make progress on a problem, you need to have a variety of different perspectives in the room so that you're not missing something. And that's one of the reasons that I am so delighted that Dr. Graham made it a real point in her career to speak up for and to advocate for greater diversity in STEM, because it helps you get to the best science.
She's very prolific also for a mathematician as a PhD thesis advisor, and I think she has had at least 19 PhD students, which for a mathematician is quite a bit.
I spend a lot of my time with my grad students, and it is so wonderful to see that they turn into full-blown researcher. I really care about what they do even after they finish their PhD. I think I have a little bit the Chinese mother side in me. It is quite important to have women as a role model. That goes without saying. But I usually tell young women to do good mathematics.
Dr. Graham's impact as a mentor of undergraduates, graduates, postdocs helped bring new people into the field and helped them launch very successfully into careers. A lot of them have gone on to be very successful faculty members in their own right, researchers in their own right. And so that also builds the reputation and then the network of UC San Diego as a place where you can come to study and then go be a leader in the field.
Additionally, she has served on editorial boards and been editor-in-chief of numerous journals, and has also served on many boards of prestigious organizations in the mathematics community. Her commitment to service and community is remarkable.
Fan Chung has received many awards. She was recently inducted into National Academy of Sciences. Among the handful top mathematicians in the world, she's considered one of them. And that puts UC San Diego on the map of an extraordinarily important research area.
Mathematics has its beautiful and poetic and romantic side. It is about pursuit of truth. Watercolor has some similarity with mathematics. It is quite analytical because watercolors have to be done by partitioning it into many layers. So at very beginning, it might look like mud. You have to use your imagination. It takes a lot of concentration. It's also very rewarding because after you finish, then you can really see your work, right? I consider myself very lucky, able to do things I really enjoy doing and happen to do well.
Okay, next one, Stephan Haggard. Our second medalist is a distinguished research professor of political science and international affairs at the School of Global Policy and Strategy. Steph retired in 2023 after more than 30 years at UC San Diego. And during his time here, he served as interim dean of the School of Global Policy and Strategy. He provided leadership to the university's first Master of Advanced Studies degree for professionals, and he was a founding member of the advisory board to the acclaimed International Studies program and facilitated its transition from the School of Social Sciences to GPS. His leadership of the Korea Pacific program has helped build UC San Diego's renown as a center for excellence in the study of Korea. and his influence and reputation in the discipline of political science has helped GPS recruit some amazing faculty. I know when he was on the search committee for the dean, his presence was really, really helpful and important. So thank you for that. I never thanked you for that. So he advanced the vision of GPS as a school committed to combining social sciences with regional issues, especially in Asia Pacific and Latin America. And he was liked and sought out among students and colleagues as a respected lecturer and mentor. He has participated as a member of more than 50 PhD committees, and his students can be found in leadership roles throughout government and academia. And his colleagues describe him as irreplaceable for many, many reasons, including his extraordinary ability to provoke dialogue about important policy issues and commitment to collaboration. And again, I can go on and on and on, but the point is to watch the video and see directly what Steph is known for. Thank you, Steph. So, please.
Steph Haggard is full of life. He's got a kind of humanistic love of people that I think really informs his work and makes it vivid and more significant.
He is just a phenomenal scholar who's worked on a wide-ranging set of really important issues, but he's also someone with a tremendous amount of integrity, who cares about his students, who cares about UC San Diego, and has helped build the School of Global Policy and Strategy, where he's been a professor for more than 30 years before he retired.
I'm Steph Haggard. I teach at the School of Global Policy and Strategy at UCSD, and I directed the Korea Pacific program for many years before I stepped down. I actually got drawn to political science in part because of political economy questions. I was in the military in Korea for a year, and I saw the beginnings of what was this dramatic growth transition in that country. And that sort of attracted me to the question of why the rest of the region had also grown so rapidly. And I wrote a book that compared East Asia and Latin America in this regard and tried to get at some of the distinctive factors. And at that point, one of the things I was interested in was the role that state institutions played. Most analysts at that time saw these as market-oriented miracles, but I just didn't see that as being the case.
Steph Haggard was recruited by GPS in the early 1990s. He was attractive to us here in our school because at that time he was a pioneer working on the Asia Pacific region, and not very many people were doing that.
UCSD was the most attractive to me, precisely because it was working at this intersection of regional studies and social science. The institution was relatively new when I joined. It was maybe 5 or 6 years old, but they had hired extraordinarily well at the founding, and that provided a base. And I think one of the things I'm proudest of is contributing to the growth of GPS as a center of excellence at UCSD on Asia and the Americas.
One of our core principles is academic excellence. Steph Haggard shows that across the board in his research. It's also about collaboration. He is a faculty member who puts as much effort into his teaching and his service as he puts into his research. He's held probably every important position at GPS over the years. He's been the interim dean and associate dean. He helped build our executive master's program. He was on the advisory board for the new undergraduate program, international studies program. He developed the Korea Pacific program and led it. And even listing all these, I've probably forgotten something.
One of the things I'm proudest of my time at GPS was mentoring a whole generation of students on the intricacies of the diplomacy, economics, and politics of the Korean Peninsula.
Well, I think what's really interesting about Steph's work is especially his work on North Korea and his interest in authoritarian regimes. Comparative politics scholars have mostly studied democratic countries because we have elections, we have election data. So it's much easier to study democratic countries than authoritarian countries. Also, authoritarian countries are very secretive. But what Steph has done uniquely important work on North Korea. He's done that by looking at the trade between North Korea and China and other countries, and he's done it by interviewing refugees.
All throughout my career, I've had an interest in regime type, basically the question of whether governments are authoritarian or democratic in underlying form, and what the consequences of that are for public policy. Since going Emeritus, I've taken a position as research director at the Institute on Global Conflict and Cooperation. I've been leading a research project there on changing global governance and how it's influenced by illiberal regimes. And by this, I mean the way that Russia, China, a coalition of authoritarian states are influencing the multilateral institutions like the UN, and also the way that backsliding states are influencing democratic regional organizations as they are in Europe.
When you take a look at Steph's career, you'll see that he has had a remarkable imprint on both the scholarship and the policy discussions. For example, he's been central to the Institute on Global Conflict and Cooperation's efforts, a discussion of security on the Korean Peninsula. He has been the founding editor for 22 years of the Journal of East Asian Studies, which really transformed the publications on the study of the politics and economics of East Asia. He was on the board of advisors of the Korean Economic Institute, which is kind of the who's who of leadership in Korea. By those and so many other ways, Steph has both had a personal imprint on policy and has shaped the intellectual scholarly dialogue.
He also was somebody who was very good at building linkages with people in other departments. He worked with people in the political science department and people in economics, as well as the people in the area studies. At the same time, GPS became the home of the international studies programs, and there were lots of courses to teach and lots of relationships to work out, and he became a real leader in doing that.
When I look over the full span of Steph Haggard's career, it's really extraordinary to see the many areas where he's had impact on campus, out in his discipline and his professional societies, and then out in the real world, and then making that all available to our students so they could learn from him and have him as a mentor, a teacher, a role model. Just that breadth, that really exemplifies the best tradition of the Revelle Medal.
I was recently elected to the American Academy of Arts and Science, and again, it came as a sort of surprise, just like the Revelle Medal. But I can only say that the timing was really nice because I'm moving to emeritus status and continuing to teach, but it kind of capped a career, so I was quite pleased.
Next up, Douglas Richman, the Distinguished Professor of Pathology and Medicine. Doug joined UC San Diego in 1976. He had since held numerous academic and leadership roles, including a dual appointment at the VA San Diego healthcare system. Doug is credited with training and mentoring hundreds of medical students, residents, postdoctoral fellows, and researchers, and his research in translational virology began in the 1970s. His early work studying influenza contributed to the development and approval of the live influenza vaccine FluMist. In response to the growing AIDS crisis in the 1980s, Doug co-led research into antiviral drugs designed to slow down the progression of HIV. His lab made history as the first to publish on HIV drug resistance, which has become part of the global standard of care for HIV infection. Doug co-founded the HIV Institute at UC San Diego, which he has directed for the past 24 years. and his work with the NIH-funded San Diego Center for AIDS Research resulted in 127 developmental grants awarded to many researchers at UC San Diego. Doug served as the chief of Clinical Virology Lab Services Section and director of the VA Research Center for HIV and AIDS infection. His emphasis on mentorship, patient care, and research quality have contributed immeasurably to UC San Diego's reputation for a world-class institution for research and patient care. Doug also served as a respected member of more than 40 state and multinational committees devoted to HIV research, treatment, and care. And he opened his lab and offered his team's time and expertise to study the SARS-CoV-2 virus and co-authored 6 papers on that subject. Work done in his lab during the pandemic continues to be published today, and his impact is really, really significant. So let's watch a little video out here to see more about Doug.
Dr. Richman is an icon in the area of HIV diseases.
Doug is really, in many ways, the kind of preeminent physician scientist. Doug has been on the scene in HIV research since the beginning. His accomplishments in this regard just run the gamut.
Well, Doug's an amazing person. He's put a lot of effort into everything that he did, including all of us. And as a mentor, as a friend, as a colleague, that was just invaluable to me in many ways.
So I've always had this passion for infectious disease and clinical virology, and I was looking for something that combined exciting basic science with an impact on people and public health. And after I started here at UCSD, I worked on influenza, herpes viruses, and even Ebola. Really in the late 70s, we started seeing these young men with fevers and lymphadenopathy, and I said, this is a virus I have to work with because these are all the patients I'm seeing and there's nobody else doing it.
The AIDS pandemic was quite terrible. All these young people had an incurable and basically uniformly fatal disease. This was a new virus. There were a lot of things to ask questions about, but there was also, especially for people who were in a translational medicine mode like Doug, there was certainly a sense of urgency to try to come up with things to help people.
It was a very stressful and challenging time, and you got the feeling it was like a battleground medicine with one casualty coming in after the other.
Doug has been the linchpin of the HIV efforts. He was part of a group that did a clinical trial with the first antiviral drug that we had, which was called AZT. And it then became clear that the benefits of AZT were short-lived. He then investigated why that was the case and discovered that the viruses that were responsible for the failure of AZT were now resistant.
So Doug did the early studies and called attention like a big red flag that we've really got to be careful that when you're dealing with an RNA virus, particularly with antiviral drugs that don't completely suppress all of the virus replication, that you are going to get resistance. The generations of antiviral drugs that started off with one drug that then went to a couple of drugs and then the ultimate triple combination that broke out and transformed the field in 1996. At every step of that stage, Doug was involved in that clinical trial process. And then he also did some fundamental basic work in understanding the HIV reservoir, which led to a whole series of studies about how one can address it by either suppressing it chronically or hopefully trying to diminish the size of it, and the holy grail of everyone of ultimately eradicating it. And Doug was one of the leading players in understanding the reservoir.
Remember, there were institutions that would not care for these patients, but UCSD did, and Dr. Richman was at the forefront of that care, and over time, he launched our first San Diego Center for AIDS Research, and we are still the beacon of care for patients with HIV.
The San Diego Center for AIDS Research, or CFAR, it seeks to be really a resource locally and internationally for researchers and HIV educators. It really seeks to create collaborations, not just among investigators at our member institutions, but in community organizations.
He also started the HIV Institute to be the think tank and focus on the treatment and cure of HIV. And we at UC San Diego have been a leader.
He had a lot of fellows come to work in his lab from all over, from Australia, from Europe, from Israel. His protege have populated the world of HIV research.
I always kept my door open. I think it's almost 24 people I've counted that are now professors around the world. I really find really gratifying.
Dr. Richman's contributions for the last 48 years have been invaluable. His research, mentorship, and patient care have had a direct impact on building UC San Diego's reputation as a leading global biomedical sciences research institution.
He's also a fantastic clinician. I actually inherited some of his HIV primary care patients at the VA when he retired from clinical service, and they all just love him and speak so highly of him, so it was difficult stepping into those shoes, I must say.
I succeeded because I did what I loved. HIV and AIDS were very challenging things to address, and I feel incredibly fortunate that I've had the opportunity to take care of really great, fascinating patients and make a difference in their lives, and that my research has made changes in terms of treatment globally. There's so much to be done, which is why we need to foster new young investigators in the field.
To have a picture with shaking hands. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Okay. Next up, Robert Chip Schooley, our next medalist. Uh-oh, who did that? He has a fan club. Okay. So Chip was recruited to UC San Diego in 2005 to head the Division of Infectious Diseases, and now the Division of Infectious Disease and Global Public Health. His influence in this role has helped build capacity and support for foreign researchers in the fight against HIV and other infectious diseases. Chip's work coordinating ACTG's international clinical trial sites served as a model for medical and nursing education partnership initiatives across sub-Saharan Africa in 2009. And during his more than 19 years at UC San Diego, Chip has contributed immeasurably to improving individual and public health and address some of the most serious infectious disease of our time. He has saved literally millions of people through his passion and commitment to research and service. And in 2016, he was the first US physician to administer intravenous bacteriophage therapy to treat antibiotic resistance. To one of our very own, the successful treatment led Chip and Dr. Stephanie Stratney to establish the UC San Diego Center for Innovative Phage Applications and Therapy. And in 2017, Chip advised San Diego Mayor's office on controlling a hepatitis outbreak amongst unhoused individuals. In 2020, he added to his impressive list of accomplishments by masterminding UC San Diego's nationally recognized and successful return-to-learn approach to spread the COVID-19 for the spread of the COVID-19 on campus. And his collaborative and interdisciplinary approach leveraged numerous innovations, including asymptomatic testing, wastewater monitoring, and adaptive data-driven analysis that guided decision-making. And his inclusive leadership style, mentoring and support for the growth and development of students and junior faculty are widely admired. So let's take a look at Chip and his career.
Chip is absolutely a visionary that believes in the power of science and scientific inquiry to both ask and answer questions and develop the best strategies to improve health.
He's a kind, sensitive individual and has a great deal of empathy.
Chip is a person that is always going to tell you exactly what he thinks. I consider him to be a maverick, somebody who thinks outside the box, and somebody who's not afraid of controversy. In fact, he takes it head on all the time.
In the early years of HIV, we decided to put together a clinical trials network. And Chip was one of the real early pioneers in the development of these clinical trial networks, and also, in the study of HIV as a separate discipline.
A lot of what we did early on was just tried to preserve life as long as we could with as high quality as we could by treating the infections. The disease really changed, though, when we began to be able to treat the underlying disease with antiviral drugs. And proceeding all the way to today has revolutionized that disease and made it one that in which people have a life expectancy not that different from the general population.
One of the key goals that Dr. Schooley brought to UC San Diego was the desire and intention to create a global health program within the Department of Medicine and within the Division of Infectious Diseases.
90+% of HIV is in the developing world. So if you really want to have a center for AIDS research that incorporates and encompasses all the aspects of HIV, that has to include global health.
I think working with people around the world is what we ought to be doing, and it's something that helps us understand who we are. Our plan to go internationally was to have the grant applications written by people living in South Africa, Kenya, Zimbabwe, with the goals being to understand the disease as it was affecting them, with a research agenda that reflected where they lived, and with them as the owners of the scientific agenda. And that has been wildly successful.
I think he is somebody who always tells young physicians never ever give up on a patient. And that was something that I was really grateful for personally when my husband was the patient. My husband and I were on vacation in Egypt in November of 2015 when he fell seriously ill. And the first person I thought to call for help was Chip.
He got here to UC San Diego in December and got progressively worse with an organism that was highly resistant to the antibiotics that we had available. And physicians were saying it's time to give up and time to pull back. And about that time, a friend of Stephanie's pointed out a paper about bacteriophages in the laboratory being able to kill Acinetobacter, and she asked if we could use those to treat her husband. And I thought about it for about 2 seconds and said, well, why not? And the rest is kind of history.
What we ended up doing was treating him intravenously, which really was the first case of intravenous phage therapy being used to treat a systemic superbug infection in the United States.
Shortly after we began to administer the phages, we got control of his infection, and after several more complicated months in the hospital, he got home, and he's now an emeritus professor here at UC San Diego and continues to be a great friend.
That kind of equanimity and sense of purpose was brought to the COVID pandemic here on campus.
I remember getting a call from him. We had just received our first patients from Wuhan, China. It was February 5th. The state of emergency hadn't even been called, and Chip called and he said, this is going to be a big deal and we have to get the campus ready for this. And through his leadership and his guidance of the chancellor and the cabinet and the health system, bringing everyone together to deliver what became, nationally recognized as the Return to Learn program.
I remember in the very beginning, he would be putting together on a daily basis decks with current infectious disease information, applying all of his infectious disease scholarship, his relationships with infectious disease scholars around the country, to the fact that we were going to deliver on our mission, that UC San Diego was going to ensure that our colleagues continued to work, our faculty could continue to teach and research, and our students could continue to learn.
Chip came with the idea that if we were going to reopen, we needed a systematic way by which data could be used to inform decision making. As a relatively junior faculty member, I was frankly scared, and I wanted to help and I was excited about it, but I wasn't sure if I could do it. And Chip has an amazing way of encouraging people and really mentoring people to bring out the best in them. And through that process, we ended up building out and developing our asymptomatic testing program, our wastewater monitoring program, and more generally, just a strategy by which we would collect and analyze data routinely and use those data-driven insights to actually make decisions and inform decisions on campus.
UC San Diego was really one of the early leaders in getting university-wide testing and the success in getting UC San Diego right back to as close to normal as you possibly could get. That was a novel but groundbreaking program.
As a leader during the COVID-19 pandemic, Chip led with a steady moral compass, always reminding us to kind of do the right thing. And he sprinkled that with a good sense of humor, which just made it such a joy to work with him.
The best part about Chip is he's hilarious. Very, very sly when he's making a joke, but I usually sit there on the Zoom cracking up.
When you mention Chip Schooley, you always talk about how he could make you laugh. He's a serious guy and a serious investigator, but he's got an amazing sense of humor.
Chip is officially Emeritus, but I think everybody would tell you that he's just as active as he was before. He still co-directs the Center for AIDS Research, and he also co-directs IPATH, the Center for Innovative Phage Applications and Therapeutics, and is involved in numerous different research grants to support that work.
It's really exciting to be in a place where this multidisciplinary expertise can come together to solve problems. So for me, it's been a really exciting period of time. All right. Did you record it and everything?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, our next medalist, Jan B. Talbot, Professor Emerita in the Eluso Yufeng Lee Department of Chemical and Nano Engineering at the Jacobs School of Engineering. That's a complicated name. Jan is distinguished by her leadership and an impressive list of firsts. In 2007, she and 4 other professors founded one of the first nano engineering departments in the country at UC San Diego. She was the first woman to be hired in AMES, A-M-E-S, at UC San Diego. I think it was Applied Mechanics and Engineering Systems, if I'm not mistaken. Did I get that right? Okay. And science, that's it. In 1975, she was the first woman engineer hired by the Chemical Technology Division at Oak Ridge National Laboratory in eastern Tennessee. She was the only female engineer of 300 chemical engineers at Oak Ridge. and she was one of only 2 women in her chemical engineering class at Penn State University. She was one of 2 women in her class at the University of Minnesota to earn a doctorate in engineering, and in 2017, she launched the Jacob School's first climate survey, which identified concerns with women faculty. And she created the Dean's Leadership Lunches to mentor and create opportunities for women to excel in the field of engineering. Her research focused on electrophoretic deposition, electrodeposition, chemical mechanical polishing, display screen processing. Again, I understand the words, but I don't know what they mean. But as in I can pronounce the word solid state lighting materials, material science, and way, way more. She has served in numerous leadership positions at UC San Diego, including being the provost of Warren College, director of chemical engineering, and chair of the academic senate. Jan has been recognized for her passionate commitment to mentoring students and faculty. She has worked tirelessly to increase, support, and retain women in engineering, and she considers one of her brightest contributions at UC San Diego to be time spent training graduate and undergraduate students. So let's take a look at Jan's career.
Jan is a wonderful human being. Jan is a brilliant researcher, and Jan understands people.
She's just such a warm person. I mean, she's got all this deep technical expertise, and she's a really interesting human being who you just want to sit and talk with.
Jan's a delight. She has an infectious sense of humor, a warmth and candor, and also conveys a sense of values and a dedication to the university.
What made me become an engineer? There weren't many role models for me as a young person, but I liked math, I liked science, and I didn't want to become a mathematician, I didn't want to become a chemist. And so somebody said, oh, how about engineering when I was in high school? I had no idea what that was. I never knew an engineer. I saw that it was about problem solving, and I could combine my interest in science and math, and it turned out to be a perfect fit. UC San Diego was one of the only places that said to me, when I said I wanted to combine chemical engineering, material science, they said, oh, that sounds really interesting. Where most people said, you know, you need to decide, are you a chemical engineer or a material science? And I said, I'm going to do both.
It's really extraordinary that Dr. Talbot contributed to the founding of 2 different departments within UC San Diego, within the Jacob School. First, mechanical and aerospace engineering, and now the Department of Chemical and Nano Engineering. It's now a very long name for a very wonderful reason.
Jan made a very important contribution to the School of Engineering and to the campus. When she decided to launch into nano engineering, what she did was refocus the campus emphasis from figuring out why materials do things to how to make materials that do the things I want. She was brilliant at that. Her research record is incredible. Imagine making materials that interact with the world only because of the infinitesimal structure and not the materials themselves. That's the magic of nanoengineering.
I'm really proud of all the work that I did. I worked in semiconductor through-hole plating, did one of the first modeling so that people could understand how they could actually electroplate into these holes. And then I worked in magnetic recording, and again, I was one of the first people that worked on some theory and doing also some experiments to trying to understand to make better materials for magnetic recording. And then the last decade I worked on solid state lighting, and we discovered new materials.
I think one of her major emphases was the importance of mentoring and helping female faculty find a way forward in a foreign territory.
By being a woman in a field where you did not find many women at that time, she was also inspirational to the students.
I was an affirmative action hire, and I felt this pressure about I really needed to perform so that more women would be hired.
Today, is different. But 40 years ago, there weren't that many women faculty in medicine or in engineering or other disciplines, and Jan was a groundbreaker.
To enter a space and to find that everyone is completely different from you, for example, with respect to gender, makes people feel that they don't belong. There is this issue of imposter syndrome. And so to be able to have those mentors that show you that this is possible, as I like to say in Spanish, si se puede. Jan was always about si se puede.
Throughout her career, Jan has made a point of supporting individual women who she was teaching or mentoring, but also looking at things structurally. She set really a standard that various parts of the Jacob School have then picked up on over the years and are really, really running with that, which has been wonderful.
She also implemented the very first survey in terms of, people's impressions and how they were feeling, which now we have university-wide, which really showed at the time that women faculty felt very differently than male faculty, and that created a lot of new initiatives such as the Women's Lunch, looking at salary equity surveys, and really changing, I think, the culture for women faculty at UC San Diego.
I think the project of getting the cafe started and named Minerva's was so important to Jan because, it goes back to her deep interest in women in engineering.
That women themselves have a hard time with kind of being noticed as a philanthropist. And that the way that they do it is by groups, as groups. And then at the same time, I had been on the naming committee for 10 years, and there wasn't anything that was named after a woman. It was a great combination of things.
Jan is one of those faculty who have just been enduringly productive by virtue of their leadership, make UC San Diego the renowned institution that it is.
So what I'd really like to say to Jan is thank you. Everyone honors what you've done, and I hope you feel happy and proud about all of it.
Okay, one more time, a big round of applause to all of our medalists. So thank you all for joining us. So now I'd like to invite the current and the past medalists to come on the podium for a picture. For a picture out here. And for the rest of us, we'll be joining you there for a little luncheon. So please join us for the lunch. But in the meantime, let's do a picture with the current and the past medalists. Thank you, everybody.